come out the Northern Beaches this morning. My client has asked me to use up some of this construction timber that he's been using. They're beautiful big roofing beams, and he's asked me to make a kitchen bench top out of it, given that we don't want to throw it out. We totally value timber, as we should. But yeah, it's really solid, and it'll make some beautiful kitchen workbench and tie in with the rest of the renovations here. Today we're getting underway with the boards, the kitchen bench top, with these unused boards from a building project. I just want to put on the record just where we are here. You can see here we've got quite a bit of crud in this particular board, so I'm just going to have to knock it out, but what I'll do is I'll just get this organised. So John, I've just got to knock this out. Don't really want to put this through the thickness planer. You can see that part of the tree there is part of the cathedral. The roundness of the tree is showing up there, so it's probably most likely to come unstuck in the thicknesser. Never mind, we'll probably most likely make that the bottom, otherwise we'll fill it up with resin. We're going to reduce the thickness quite a bit anyway. I've set up the laser. You can see the laser line on my finger here. So that gives us a bit of an idea of just about where we're at with any of that. So yesterday we planed up all these old boards. We knew we had a little issue in one of them here with just a little bit of, looks like the exterior, like the round part of the tree, where it looks like a bit of sap actually that's dried. So we've got most of that, and that's going to have to sit on the bottom. As you can see, almost there. We can't afford to chop any off here because I need the whole 3.02 metres. So I've got to go take a little bit more out. That'll get us to 32 mil, which is pretty ideal really for a kitchen bench top. So just flick that one back over, and that's where we're at. So another few more passes through the thicknesser. As you can see here, the boards have got quite a woof in them. So to get the thickness, or to get a straight edge on there to join, we're going to have to lose quite a, probably 5 or 10 mil off each one. That's how it is, sorry, but here we go. With the boards now planed off to sort of statutory 32 mil, I really just need now to glue these together. I need a really long straight joint. Now with this blade here, you may not be able to see it in there, but I've just got to clean up that first joint, which we'll do with this track saw, and the track saw jig itself will give me a nice, clean, perfectly straight edge. That doesn't look too bad. Maybe just take a shave more off, but we can do that as a second cut, and we'll worry about that then. Very good. Getting closer now to a nice tight joint. I need to make one track saw cut through both timbers and get me a dead flush joint. And I'll do that by way of the track saw. So just go, pop the track saw up there, put the blade right through the middle of the existing joints, and it doesn't even matter if there's slightly out of square, because the one cut will be matched perfectly. Okay, so I would challenge most woodworkers to get a better joint than that with some very rudimentary shop tools. We've got the domino joints in here. These are all dry fitted. This joint will be glued up with Tight Bond 3. So good old moisture proof glue. Never let me down yet. So yeah, that's the first joint, nearly ready to go. We've got a really lovely alignment there with the domino joints, and just doing one at a time, make sure that we get each joint perfect. And we can do it over a few days, that's fine. Now you can see here that there's quite a woof in this board, so obviously we're just going to have to straight edge that out to the point where we've got another joint and another joint, and then we'll clean up the edges. So another successful glue up really, just cleaning up these joints here and using every clamp I have. Should get a few more I suppose, but might need a different array of clamps to do the whole thing. So one more One more joint to do to put these two boards together in the new year. Today is New Year's Eve, 2025. So yeah, we're almost there. Okay, so we've got all dominoes in place, just a little bit of a dry fit. See there, that's the sort of thing we'll just get in there. Gives a good, nice alignment, the timber. You can see these are all domino fitted and it's perfect alignment. So we've got everything glued together now. We've got the last added batten here, which was a bit of extra we had to add on to make the 600mm wide bench. As you can see, upside down here we've got quite a bit of crud in this big chunk of sapwood, so I'm going to have to grind all that out. There's a few dirty bits over here, a bit more sapwood in here, so I've got my die grinder out, so I'm going to take to that with this little baby here, which will pretty much just grind all that out. I've got the joint prepared, so this is the end. This is a breadboard end, but what we've done, because we had to put some filler pieces on, I've got my dowel domino joints in there. That's a nice tight fit in there. I've also got what's called pocket hole screws here. So those pocket hole screws, I can't get enough clamping pressure along the whole board, so I'm just using a pocket hole screw in there, and that will just screw that up tightly. Now, because this is an end grain joint, I've got end grain on the mitre and end grain on the boards here, and an end grain mitre. Then I'm going to be using it's not so much a wood glue, but this is a North System boat epoxy system. So this is good for laminating boat hulls and what have you. So really sucks right up into that end grain and gives it a solid bond in there. So that should maintain that joint really structurally well. As you can see, there's a bit of sap in here. It's probably a little bit extra work involved actually, so I'm probably going to have to speak to the client and say, look, there's a little bit more involved here. So that'll be fine. I'm sure I'll be fine with that. I'll just show you how we get all that out. So even though this is the underside of the table, it's still very important that we seal up all of these cracks and grooves. The same glue I was going to use for the end joint. It's a great sealer. It's fantastic stuff. So that'll seal that up really nice and solid. I think if you look down here, of course, you can see these are quite deep. So it's going to take a little bit of resin fill to fill all them up and seal it up. So yeah, a little bit more involved than we originally quoted for, so there might be a little variance there. We've got all those cracks, crevices and gaps in the boards that showed up once we processed it all, put it through the thicknesser. You can see there, just trying to well and truly seal all of that stuff up. It's going to be in a kitchen, so it's a bit of a wet area, and I just don't want them coming apart. So just to be sure, I'm going to add or fill these and flush them off with Lucy Clear. This is a casting resin, so it'll fill all those voids right up and make them, and just get them all flush with the underside of the board. All right, get that underway this afternoon. That'll be another part of the process. So not expected with all that, but never mind. We've filled this up with casting resin. A good indication here is if the resin falls all the way through underneath, then you've got a crack all the way through. And in fact, that's what has occurred here alone, thankfully. So that crack there, I've just had to get in underneath there and mask that up madly before it just all runs out. And the next part of the procedure is just to get all this nicely flattened off. Just take those lumps and bumps off where the resin's been filled. It's all sealed off now, so we'll just get all that sanded back, and I'll just give you a look at that. Doesn't have to be too fussy with all this. This is the underside, and we've coated with some sanding sealer, followed by some Carbethane Clear, which is just a clear polyurethane. That'll be underneath. As long as we seal it all up, that'll be fine. So we've got the piece turned over and partially sanded off some of that resin that come through from the pore from the bottom. I just want to point out here, this one board in the middle, this is one board here, maybe just see that, so quite a bit of cracking all the way through it. So I'm just going to have to fill those. I'll give them a resin fill. That's a marine grade resin fill. So I think that's all we can do with that. It's probably sometimes ideal to have a little bit of a weak spot so you can identify exactly where it might play up. Got a big knot here, so we'll put some fill in there. And this here, just all the way through that one board. Caught a few cracks here when we poured from the bottom through, so we've got to try to do that. Also, there's quite a bit of tiny little bore holes, I guess they are, wormholes and bore holes. So we really have to pay attention to all that. Fill them all up, because it's going to be used as a kitchen bench top. We've got the sanding done with the big belt sander. That gets rid of all that resin fill, everything else. And as you can see, you might be able to see there, it's quite scratched. That's at 80 grit. Then we'll move on to the rotary sander, which will give us a finer finish. So we'll start with that at 80 and move through the cycles from 80 up to about 120, where we'll put a sanding sealer on the whole thing just to seal everything up. And then we'll move to put our Carbethane clear polyurethane finish on there. Another joint up here, just to get a breadboard end on this. This is the exposed end. And we'll just cut that and put a nice round on there. There's a corner in the kitchen. Getting some clamping pressure on here was a bit difficult. Obviously, I don't have 3 metre length clamps. So I've just had to jerry-rig a little bit of board here just to get some clamping pressure on that joint here. So once again, I've used that marine grade epoxy, 2-pack epoxy, to glue that up, along with the dominoes. Right, so first coat of sanding sealer is on the top and underneath and all around the sides. So there's 2 coats of sanding sealer underneath. I'm not even going to leave, I'll just leave that from here because that's underneath. And from here we'll clean that up with a 150 grit. And then we will put the first clear coat on of polyurethane. So probably put about 3-4 coats of polyurethane on over the next 24 hours. Let that cure up a bit, sand it back, and then we'll give some finish coats. So we've used the Carbethane clear just to give us the final coats on the bench top, and looking pretty good. That's 3 coats on now. I've got to sand that back probably about 240 grit and put another 3 coats on, and we should be done. So we've got our first coats of Carbethane clear. That's the clear polyurethane. As you can see, I've started sanding back with a bit of I'm on 220 grit now. That'll take that first 3 coats off and just get them nice and smooth and flat. And then we'll follow that up with another 2 or 3 coats, and then we'll go up a grit again to about 400 grit, and then we'll see where we're at that. So it's a bit warm here, a bit tropical, a bit humid, so it's taken a little time just to cure up nicely. Once that's done, we'll leave about 7 days, and then we'll get a nice cured finish on the product. So I won't bore you with all the sanding, but just to give you a bit of a look. So this is quite aggressive. My fine sand is broken down at the moment, so this is reasonably aggressive, but we'll just tone it down a bit. So I think you get the drift. So we're all done. So with the bench top now complete, we've just ready to push him out into the driveway and let the builder pick him up and fit onto site, which we'll get some footage of a bit later.